Welcome into the 49ers Report right here on Chat Sports. Chase Sr. here with you, and we have another victory to talk about. It's 11 in a row for the San Francisco 49ers, and now the Niners going to be hosting a home playoff game at Levi's Stadium in the divisional round of the NFL playoffs following a very dramatic, at some points contentious and close game against the Seattle Seahawks. And then at the end of the day, the Niners able to pull away with a win over Seattle 3 times this season as they continue to bring out the brooms by a final score of 41-23. And it's oh so sweet that it comes with the trifecta over the most hated and heated rival, the Seattle Seahawks. Now, there's so much to talk about with this football game because early in the first half, it got dicey. It got interesting. But then, until the Seahawks scored that final touchdown, the Niners were so dominant. And that's when their true colors showed. In the first half, they messed around a little bit. They got out to that 10-0 lead. Seattle comes back a little bit. They take that 17-16 lead going into the locker room at recess after Jimmy Ward's inexplicable, ridiculous late hit on Geno Smith. But from that point on, the Niners went into the locker room at recess. They made some adjustments defensively, which is what they needed to do. Brock Purdy settled down a little bit. They pinpointed what they needed to do offensively. In the second half, we saw a completely different 49ers team. A Niners team that until that last touchdown, as I said, outscored Seattle 25-0 before that final touchdown to make the scoreboard look a little bit more respectable in the final minutes. And that's when the Niners rose up to the occasion and showed everybody out there why they should be taken seriously and why this team is a legitimate Super Bowl contender and why they have won 11 games in a row, because this team is oh so hard to stop on the offensive and defensive side of the football. So if you're pumped up about this San Francisco 49ers win, I want you to throw those dubs in the comment section right now. How are you not pumped up? And honestly, it was entertaining in the first half because we had a close game to talk about. And then in the second half, that's when the Niners found their groove. Offensively, defensively, they rose up to the occasion, and they showed everybody out there that this team is a team to be reckoned with. Now, when you look at this game from the macro perspective, a couple of things to certainly talk about here live on the 49ers Report. Niners outscoring Seattle before that final touchdown, 25-0. They could not be stopped in the second half. And when you look at the landscape in the NFC, I've continued to say this over the last couple of months. There is not a team in this conference that is better than San Francisco, more well-rounded than San Francisco, deeper, better coached than the Niners. Kyle Shanahan was in his bag in the second half. DeMeco Ryans made the necessary adjustments. And the sign of a quality elite championship level team. How do you continue to adjust on the fly? Can you make the necessary adjustments to counter what the opposition does? And that's what the Niners did. To beat the Seattle Seahawks 3 times in a single season is very difficult to do. The Niners pulled that off, and Pete Carroll, prior to this year, had Kyle Shanahan's number. So to reverse the curse and to beat Pete Carroll 3 times in a single season and to take down the Seahawks 3 times is a monumental moment for this franchise and a moment that Kyle Shanahan should be proud of. Because in the second half, we saw what we predicted if we saw a level playing field. 2 teams on completely different levels. A Niners team that was far more talented, and they came through with the victory. Now, make sure you subscribe to the 49ers Report. We had about 100,000 people join us for our Niners Seahawks watch party, but this isn't all we do. We give you daily content on the Niners, news, rumors, and analysis, instant breaking news coverage where we go more in-depth and longer than anybody out there and faster. We do live shows and watch parties, and our content interactive, informative, and entertaining. Now, to my takeaways now. Brock Purdy. What a story Brock Purdy is. He has a legitimate opportunity to become the first rookie quarterback to start for a Super Bowl winner. And early in this game, Purdy no doubt was a little bit shaky. He had the overthrow to Deebo on the first drive. He underthrew Jennings on a touchdown to be had. But Brock Purdy settled in. He became a little bit more comfortable. And Brock Purdy finished this game in really impressive fashion. 18 of 30, 332 yards, average yards per completion of 11.1 with 3 touchdowns to 0 picks. There were a couple of moments in which the Seahawks disguised some of their defensive tendencies, and they could have had a couple of interceptions that maybe could have changed this football game. But what Brock Purdy continues to do really is startling. It really is amazing, because this is a rookie who played in 48 games at Iowa State, which prepared him to be ready for the NFL game. He hasn't looked flustered. There were a couple of plays in which he missed and a couple of throws in which he misfired, but he never let that overtake his confidence level and his composure. He never panicked. And that's why I've continued to say that this Niners team, even with a rookie quarterback, can win with Brock Purdy because of the prerequisites that he shows at that quarterback position and the necessary intangibles that he has. And this continues to be, honestly, one of the more shocking stories in the history of the National Football League. For him to play this well and be 6-0 as a starter, now going to the divisional round. More takeaways from this football game. Deebo Samuel. There's a reason he was an All-Pro last year. He got injured. That was problematic, and injury issues continue to be a little bit of a problem for Deebo Samuel. But he's a dynamic playmaker, picking up yards after the catch. He has this innate ability to break tackles, extend drives, extend plays, and when it looks as though he has nothing to gain, he turns garbage into gold. And that last touchdown that he had, in which he caught the football after about an 8-yard gain and went 74 yards to the crib, is what makes him one of one, but what also makes this Niners team completely special. Because you have to game plan against Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Jawan Jennings, George Kittle, who finally didn't catch a touchdown pass. And then in the backfield, in this ground game, you have Christian McCaffrey, who was an all-pro stud, and Elijah Mitchell with this offensive line that is clicking. This is why I continue to say that this Niners team is really, really special, and they're so difficult to stop. Because if you're game planning against this team right now, who do you pinpoint to stop on this Niners squad? Brandon Ayuk, let's talk about him. Ayuk, 1,000-yard receiver in the regular season. He's gotten better and better each year that he's been in the NFL. This guy is a route runner and pass catcher is special. I've been on the record saying that I'd rather have Brandon Ayuk than CD Lamb. This season has showed you why. He's more reliable. He doesn't drop passes outside of that miraculous Brock Purdy would have been touchdown in the back of the end zone in garbage time. He's a unique weapon and a special weapon in this league. And the fact that the Niners got him in the first round when he started his football life out of high school at JUCO, Arizona State, another great draft pick for this Niners team. And Ayuk continues to dazzle. It's time to lock him up on a contract extension. The moment of the game that changed the complexion of this football game was the Geno Smith strip sack. At that point, the Seahawks are threatening. Even if they get a field goal or a touchdown, they make it a lot more interesting. But what I've continued to say about this football team, you get a pass rush and you get pressure on the opposing quarterback. It takes the pressure off of the back end. And if you get a pass rush on the opposing quarterback, which was my key to the game in addition to stopping the run, you can force a turnover at a timely time. And even when your defense wasn't playing all that well, it's Charles Omenihu who comes through with the strip sack, Nick Bosa with the fumble recovery. And if the Seahawks score there, a field goal or a touchdown, the game is different. The game is different. It changes. The momentum shifts. And the thought creeps into the Niners' mind that, oh, shoot, we could lose this football game. Charles Omenihu with the strip sack, Nick Bosa with the recovery. That is the beauty of building your team defensively along the defensive line, because if you get pressure, you don't have to worry about the back end. And if you get pressure, those timely turnovers can happen. And Charles Omenihu, what a trade acquisition for John Lynch. Trade deadline last year, they trade for him. Last year, he was great when he got the grasp of this defense. And this year, he's been awesome. He's put himself in a position to make a lot of money this offseason. And I love how the Niners have built the foundational unit of this football team. Run the football, be physical, offensively, motion, a lot of shifts. Sometimes it's finesse. But we'll beat your ass, we'll uppercut you in the chin, and we'll punch you in the mouth. But also defensively, we will get after you via the run, via the pass, and the turning point of this football game is when Charles Omenihu forced that strip sack. Now, a lot more thoughts and your calls still to come here on our Niners postgame report. But first, sign up with our sportsbook partner, BetUS. NFL playoffs are just getting started. It's wild card weekend, baby. And if you want to bet on the NFL playoffs, make sure you do so with the best sportsbook in the game. It's chatsports.com/49bet. Promo code Niners125. You put in $100. When you use that link in that promo code, you get $125 back. Sign up today. More thoughts before we start taking your calls. Eric Armstead. Can we stop disrespecting Eric Armstead as a player? Everybody wants to focus on the sack numbers for Armstead. He continues to be a disruptor and a game changer from the interior. I look at sack numbers like wins for a pitcher in Major League Baseball. Doesn't tell the full story. The full story is the ERA. In football, the full story is pressures, quarterback hits, and what you do when you don't just be a nerd and look at the numbers. Eric Armstead continues to have a profound impact on this Niners defense. And for this Niners defense, moving forward, you're going to face better quarterbacks than Geno Smith. You're going to be in tighter situations. When you send the blitz to Miko Ryans, you can't get gashed with no safety help like that long touchdown from Geno Smith to DK Metcalf, They have to make adjustments moving forward, and they made adjustments in this game. And that goes back to my original point of this Niners team being able to make some coaching adjustments. And lastly, before we take your calls, the weather held up. Weather was not a factor. I tweeted it out. I've been talking about it all week. Sloppy weather kind of evens the playing field to a certain degree. There was really no heavy rainstorms throughout this game, and I said to everybody, if this game were to be played on a neutral surface, San Francisco would dominate, and I mean dominate this football game. Well, without the weather, it was a neutral surface, 41-23. More notes. Christian McCaffrey continues to just change the complexion of this Niners team, and it's changed the trajectory of this franchise. Without him, this offense was stagnant, mundane, lame, not explosive. 15 carries, 119 yards, and then through the air, 2 catches for 17 in addition to a touchdown. This Niners organization right now, from Kyle Shanahan to DeMeco Ryans to John Lynch and Adam Peters and Rand Carthen in the front office, one of the more well-run organizations in the sport. It's time to give them some respect. Let's take some calls here on the show. David Corona, we're going to kick it off with you. Welcome on to the show, David.
Oh, thank you for that call, man. I
Yep.
appreciate it. And I wish they did that last year against the Rams. But we found our quarterback now, and he's going to take us very far. He's going all the way to the Super Bowl. I can feel it.
It looks as though Brock Purdy could be the guy, man. That's crazy.
He moves around. He sees where he has to throw the ball, and he just throws it right there in the chest, and then everybody catches it, and they run for the touchdown.
Yeah. And David, thank you for your call, man. You're a real one. What I love about Purdy, early on, he wasn't great. He misfired on a couple of throws. He was inaccurate. He looked to be a little bit flustered in a playoff game. But he settled down. He found a groove, ended up having a great game. And this is the one that you just needed to get out of the way. Now moving forward, Brock Purdy understands the pressure. Brock Purdy understands the intensity of a playoff game. Brock Purdy knows what to expect. And as we progress forward here in this playoff run, Brock Purdy, I expect him to be more comfortable in the divisional round, because now he just got that one out of the way, and now he's 6-0 as a starter, 1-0 in the playoffs. This continues to be, as I said, a miraculous playoff run. Let's go next to Ralph. Ralph, you're the next caller on our 49ers Report postgame show. What's up, Ralph? You ready to go, Ralph? Unmute yourself if that's the case. If not, we're going to go to Wet Noodle 187. Wet Noodle, good to hear from you, man. Thanks for hanging out in the caller queue. What's up, Wet Noodle?
Not much, man. Just driving back from a great victory. Sucks that I lost the bet, but three things. What do you see us going? Who you want to face in the next round?
So you won your bet, right? Because you took the Niners -9 and they won 41-23. Am I correct?
I believe so. I have to double check on that.
Well, you did. Yeah. If you took the Niners -9, they won 41-23. So you won your money back. So you're good.
Wait.
Yeah.
I'll take that then.
There you go. There you go. As far as the next opponent, and Wet Noodle, thanks for calling into the show. The next opponent, I'm really not worried about anybody in the NFC outside of Philadelphia. And you don't have to worry about Philadelphia in the next round. Next week, if Minnesota comes to Santa Clara, I think the Niners will beat that ass. Tampa Bay, you already crushed them. Giants, you killed them. So Cowboys, they're a solid team, but can they come through in a big playoff spot on the road against the Niners? I don't believe so. That's why we've continued to say that this Niners team is very well positioned to make a deep playoff run. Evan, the GM, you're the next caller on our Niners Report postgame show. What's up, Evan?
Not much. Honestly, what I gotta say is, that one throw to Brandon Ayuk, it reminded me of that big pass of the Super Bowl catch.
Yes. In terms of like the shift of the game, right?
Yeah. When Brandon Ayuk dropped that, it almost reminded me of that catch of the Super Bowl against the Bengals. I was like, how did he drop that?
Oh, dude, yeah. Okay, so that's the catch that you're talking about. So if Brock Purdy were to complete that play in which Evan, rolled all the way to the left, rolled all the way to the right, he put a dime on Ayuk. He simply dropped it, and Ayuk went to the bench after that and laid on his back. He couldn't believe it. But if that play were to be completed, that's a play that happens in high school, sometimes maybe college, like Reggie Bush-esque, in which he runs left, runs right, goes up the middle, goes 90 yards to the crib. If Purdy completed that, it just would have been absolutely legendary, man.
And
legendary.
Also one last thing. Honestly, I had this probably since like the whole second half started. What will the 49ers do if a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant lead the 49ers to the Super Bowl? Are they going to get rid of Trey Lance when they traded up for him? Are they going to get rid of Jimmy G? What's the offseason going to look like? Oh my.
Yeah. No, it's a good point to bring up, and thank you, Evan, for your call. That'll be the last caller on our post-game show. Then we'll continue to take calls for our video that's going to go out tomorrow. And when you think about the quarterback situation, I think that with the way that Purdy played tonight, as he threw for more than 300 yards, he responded to early adversity and early misses. I think Purdy is the guy for next year. He has to be, right? I mean, 6-0 as a starter, how well he's played, how accurate he's been as a thrower, his ability when the pocket breaks down, to have this pocket mobility, to skirt out right or left and still make a play happen is something that Jimmy Garoppolo would never offer you. And Trey Lance has that mobility, but he doesn't have the accuracy. So for Purdy, I think he's earned himself the starting role for next year. And if this Niners playoff run continues, I don't see how Trey Lance can unseat Brock Purdy. And everybody's going to say, you gave up 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. It's a waste. If you got Purdy with the last pick of the draft and you hit on that, like the Patriots hit on Tom Brady, and he can be your guy and continue to play like this, that's all that matters. And Kyle Shanahan wants a quarterback who can distribute the football, be accurate, disperse it, and not mess it up. And if Purdy is that guy, then that's all that matters at the end of the day. So with our post-game show, your MVP for 49ers Seahawks, who is it? Let us know in the chat. Drop me a name down below. We appreciate y'all for watching.